There are many reasons that lead me to believe that Dave Chaffee has a legit shot of beating Devon Larratt. How? Let's find out.
Dave Chaffee has said some things about me.
I've been watching him come out here and disrespect people. I was brought up, for good sportsmanship. Apparently they don't teach that in Canada.
King of the Table 7, June 24th, easy money Dave Chaffee will face No Limits Devon Larratt in a 6-round super match format in Dubai, and I think easy money has some legit chances of winning that match. So when that match was announced, people were totally counting Dave off. They were saying that this is a mismatch. Why is it even happening? But I believe there are some things that are really difficult to ignore. Let's check out this community post. People are saying that Devon will beat Dave easy, and there are few factors that are impossible to ignore here. Higher pin pads compared to WL, first one. So this one I heard from Travis Bagent about a couple of years ago. Not saying that this information can be trusted fully, but I think I've heard it one more time somewhere else. They say that the WL pin pads were only 3 inches in height and the elbow pads are 2 inches. So the pin pad is only 1 inch above the elbow pad. And that is what makes people, especially the Kings movers, really difficult to pin. We saw that how Todd Hutchings was struggling against Devon Larratt, even though that looked like a clear pin, but still you get the idea. It makes it difficult. Now the pin pads will be 4 inches in height, so a couple of inches above the elbow pad. That is a normal scenario. I wouldn't say that that is a disadvantage to the Kings mover because it is a normal situation, but compared to WL pads where Devon beat Dave 3 pins to 1 in 2019, that is for sure going to be a disadvantage for Devon. And we even saw that in Devon's latest video that he just posted. He said that he believes that the pin pads should be lower in height.
So the first thing I would do is table design. I would slightly lower the pin pads.
And towards the end he said that people will say that I'm saying that because it benefits me. It's not like that. Well, it certainly looks like that. So second point, 7 by 7 inch elbow pads, so no unfair advantage to Kings move. What do I mean by that? I've addressed this topic multiple times in the last 2 years. When they had 2 extra inches off the back of the pad in WL, it vastly helped the Kings movers or top rollers because the 2 inches were added to the back of the pad and not to the front. So what happens is when somebody is trying to press a Kings move, usually on a 7 by 7 pad, they end up in a position like this. Let me show it to you from a different angle. So they end up in a position like this. But once they are facing someone on a longer pad, then the Kings mover separates their arm like this. So now they have to press like this and it greatly reduces the force. Of course, what I just showed you was way more than 2 inches, but I think you get the idea. Point number 3 is shoulder below the table in defensive Kings move is a foul, unlike 2019 WAL match. So these rules were changed in WAL as well. So that rule was existent in that 2019 match that your shoulder cannot dip below the table when you are in a neutral or a losing position. But Devon's shoulder was below the table in a neutral and losing position for almost the entire match, but he wasn't fouled once by Bartwood for that. So I hope that is not going to be the case here. Some people were mentioning that just watch the Khalid Jasher versus Schoolboy match. They're going to allow it once again. But I don't think so. People are slightly thinking about moving towards the more stricter side. First time at East versus West 7, we saw rules being applied strictly. Well, in most of the cases at least. Point number 4, Dave now has a flop press. Even before that, he once tried to flop press Michael Todd to the pad, but he wasn't successful in doing so. But right now, he tends to go to that option more often. We saw that against Vitaly Laletin, that was the only move that won him the match. We saw him try that against Hermes Gasparini. It didn't quite work out, but at least he has that weapon now. He knows he can access it. And the non-squaring of the shoulder things, which is always a problem in Devon Larratt matches, we saw how Gennady and Devon both were exploiting that rule. Now I think it is going to help Dave as well, because Dave's shoulders were also not squared when he pressed Vitaly to the pad in the final round. They were clearly not squared. So I think Devon was going to do it anyways. So now Dave Chaffee will also do that 100%. So it kind of levels the field, which wasn't the case in 2019. And we already saw in the Gennady match that Devon's resistance against this flop press isn't that great. His endurance is great in this position. He can stay there forever. But if too much force is applied, then Devon is kind of helpless in that position. Is Dave that much strong in that position? I'm not quite sure, but he may very well be. Fifth point, only advantage Devon have now is being 5 to 10% bigger and stronger than 2019. Devon was about 10 pounds lighter than Dave in 2019, and now he's going to be about 10 pounds heavier than Dave. So about 20 pounds difference, 25 pounds difference. And I think that's a fair assumption, because somebody who's been arm wrestling for that long, I don't think he can magically improve by 15-20%. So 5 to 10% is a fair assumption. And Dave's hook is not at that level anymore. So I would assume that Devon may have an advantage inside a hook as well. Prior to that, he cannot even think about hooking Dave Chaffee. But now we have seen Morozov and Gennady Quickvinia have some success against Dave in a hook, and Devon beat Gennady in a hook. So where is this going? Is Devon going to straight away hook Dave Chaffee and beat him? I think that may also be a possibility, because things are kind of leaning towards that way. Dave's hook is not that great anymore. Devon is big. Even if his hook is at his previous level, still I think he may be able to hang with Dave inside a hook as well. But that will be interesting to see. Devon versus Dave in a hook war. So unless Dave Chaffee is significantly weaker than what he was in 2019, this match is on. What do I mean by that? 2019 Dave Chaffee, when he called out Devon Larratt, he looked massive. He looked beefy. Now he doesn't look that way. His arms look a little bit skinnier. I shouldn't say skinny because he still has massive arms, but compared to that time. But I heard Dave say that he's always been around 275 pounds. So how does that work out? The entire world is saying that Dave Chaffee looks very light compared to his peak form, his prime form, when he was going up against Denis Siplenkov and giving him wars. But Dave replies that his weight has always been the same, around 275 pounds. So I don't know what is going on there. Somebody mentioned Dave's neck issues. Dave himself mentioned it in the Dubai interview. And people are saying that's why he looks kind of washed up. He has lost all 4 matches at East versus West. That's why he lost so bad to Rivas Lutidze. Because of these things, people are assuming, because of his neck injury, because he cannot really work out well, he's not the same Dave anymore. So there is a good possibility that Dave may not be as strong as he was in 2019. So that kind of sums it up, because Devon is 10% stronger, and if Dave is like 5% weaker, then it adds up to be 25%. One more point that I forgot to add here in favor of Dave is Dave Chaffee was basically a hook arm wrestler till about 2017-18. The last time Dave hooked, it was against Krasimir Kostadinov in 2018 WL. Since then, he has been only top rolling. So Devon faced the version of Dave that was top rolling only for 1 year. Now Devon is facing the version of Dave that has about 4-5 years of top rolling experience. And Dave's only shot to beat Devon's King's move may be through a top roll followed by a press, and he has recently been using both of these moves. So that can also add to his advantage. The fact that both Devon and Dave lost their matches and still the main event, that's kind of weird. It shows that there are some arm wrestlers almost bigger than arm wrestling itself, because usually you would assume that the winners get more chances. Both of them lost, but still they are the main event of King of the Table. So that shows how big the aura of Devon Larratt is. That shows how big the money numbers are when Devon shows up. Or maybe the contracts were signed before East versus West. That's what I also thought. And there's a huge possibility that this is the truth. The contracts were signed before that. But since the match was not announced before this, then it means if it was not Devon Larratt, then maybe they could have still changed the main event. I don't know. Or maybe not, because the contracts were already signed. I don't know what the stipulations are, if they can still transfer the super match from king of the table 7 to, let's say, king of the table 8, or they can change the matches. I don't know how it works, but there is a good chance that the contracts were signed before. So you can purchase the pay-per-view at Core Sports. And now I will read some of the interesting comments. Dave has never been the same since the neck injury. Because of the post-retally, he's been struggling even more. Yeah, makes sense. Devon's got a decent chance. If he still loses, it looks quite bad. I totally agree. If Devon loses this match, then it will be his third consecutive loss against a super heavyweight, and that is going to be really, really bad for the image, for the perception of his career. Really looks bad. 3 straight losses. Nobody enjoys that. Devon showed some crazy strength against Gennady without King's move. So if you all think that Dave can out arm wrestle Devon like Gennady, no, it is not going to happen. I don't think it is going to happen. But Dave needs to follow that simple plan. Top roll, press. Top roll, press. That's all he needs to do. I don't think there will be any outsmarting going on there. Yes, and I agree, he can hang with him in a hook as well. Next up we have Devon needs right now approach this match. Humility, respect, secure dominant 3-0 victory. I totally agree. Rematch, August, Gennady match, Dennis match. Everything gets affected after this match for sure. And next up, let's see what we have. Dave is about to retire and wants to end his arm wrestling career with a bang. I'm not sure about that. I don't think he's going to retire. I hope he doesn't. So the motivation is much higher. Okay, I think Devon's motivation will also be a lot higher because he also recently lost a match. Dennis match, yes. Everybody's mentioning the Dennis Plankov match. Devon's stable IQ versus Dave's akin to Einstein versus the first year physics student. Okay, that's interesting. And after that we have strength gap vastly reduced due to both increase by Devon and decline by Dave. That something that we just discussed. Zero skill gap closure. I disagree. Now Dave has a flop press and now Dave has been top rolling more. So skill gap closure may be there. It may be there. King of the table allows King's move. Khalid was sitting on the floor against Schoolboy. His arm was completely straight. That was one of the worst King's move ever. The referee didn't give a fuck. I hope it is not the case this time. I hope it is not the case. I think that Dave's hand has become much weaker compared to his prime. Plus, in general, he isn't that strong. So, again, people are mentioning this topic. Maybe there is a good amount of truth to that. But everybody hopes that it isn't the case. Devon is much stronger since then. He held Gennady in center. Once again, Devon can match Dave inside a hook in the center now, unlike the previous 1 decade where he cannot do anything against Dave in that position. 5 to 10% stronger than 2019? No. 35 to 45% stronger than 2019. Man, I hope he's just kidding. Because if he isn't, then there are some retarded persons like that who write some things that absolutely make no sense. A person who has been arm wrestling for 2.5 decades and he suddenly got 40% stronger. That's one of the most deluded comments that I've ever read. My mistake. Bro, I hope you're just kidding. I'll hide your name in case you are. These points are all fair, but I think the factor is that Devon is significantly more than 5 to 10% stronger in his prime form, plus his style has evolved to apply stopping power. Okay, East versus 7, Dave for Devon. Hopefully, Dave recovers and gives a great challenge. I agree. So these were the comments. I think it is going to be close because there are a lot more factors in Dave's favor this time and not so much in Devon's favor. One only, Devon has gotten slightly stronger, Dave has gotten slightly weaker. This one is kind of sure, and Dave's getting weaker, that's kind of doubtful, but it may also be the truth. Thanks for watching. Like, if you enjoyed the video, you can consider subscribing. And I did a 1-hour workout in members only live stream, so that thing will be common 3-4 times a week. Please join as a member if you want, and I really appreciate you all.